why you forget things so easily. You just had it a second ago. The name, the thought, the reason you walked into the room. And now it's gone. Not faded, not hidden, just gone. You pause. You try to force it back. But the harder you try, the further it slips. And somewhere in the background, a quiet thought appears. Why is my memory so bad? But what if forgetting like this isn't a failure at all? Problem deep dive. You don't just forget small things. You forget conversations. You forget what you studied yesterday. You forget why something mattered to you in the first place. And it's not random. It happens more when you're overwhelmed, more when your mind is busy, more when life feels heavy. You start questioning yourself. Am I distracted? Am I lazy? Or is something wrong with me? But the deeper problem isn't just forgetting. It's what forgetting does to your identity. You stop trusting your mind. You double-check everything. You hesitate before speaking, just in case you lose your point mid-sentence. In conversations, you feel slower. In studies, you feel behind. In life, you feel like you're missing something everyone else seems to have. And slowly, you begin to believe that your brain is the problem. But here's the uncomfortable question. What if your brain isn't failing you, but protecting you? Reframe. Forgetting is not a glitch. It's a feature. Your brain was never designed to remember everything. It was designed to filter. Think about it. Every second, your senses take in thousands of details. Sounds, faces, words, emotions, movements. If your brain stored all of it, you wouldn't function. So it makes choices. What to keep, what to ignore, what to delete. And those choices are not random. They follow patterns. Patterns shaped by stress, attention, and meaning. So when you forget something, it's not because your brain is weak. It's because, in that moment, your brain decided it wasn't worth keeping. But why would it make that decision? That's where it gets interesting. Psychological mechanism. Your memory doesn't work like a storage box. It works like a gatekeeper. Only certain information is allowed in, and that gatekeeper is controlled by two major forces: attention and emotion. If something doesn't fully capture your attention, it never properly enters memory. If something doesn't carry emotional weight, it doesn't get prioritized. Here's a simple mental model. Your brain is like a spotlight in a dark room. Whatever the light touches gets recorded. Everything else stays in the dark. So if your attention is scattered, scrolling, thinking, worrying, the spotlight keeps moving. Nothing stays long enough to be stored. That's why you read a page and realize you absorbed nothing. That's why someone tells you their name and you forget its icons later. Not because you can't remember, but because you never fully noticed. But there's another layer. Stress. When your brain senses pressure or overload, it shifts into survival mode. And in survival mode, memory becomes selective. The brain prioritizes threats, emotions, and urgency, not random details. So if you're constantly stressed, your brain isn't trying to remember more. It's trying to survive more. And memory becomes a secondary function, which leads to a quiet realization. You don't forget because your memory is weak. You forget because your mind is busy doing something else. But if that's true, can you actually change it? Practical framework, not by forcing your memory, but by working with how your brain already functions. 1. Slow down the spotlight. What to do? Focus on one thing at a time, even for a few seconds. Why it works. Attention is required for memory encoding. Without stable attention, the brain doesn't save the information. Example, when someone tells you their name, pause, repeat it in your mind once, and look at their face. That small moment anchors the memory. 2. Add meaning to information. What to do? Connect new information to something you already know. Why it works. The brain stores patterns, not isolated facts. Meaning creates stronger neural connections. Example, if someone's name is Ali, link it to someone you already know with that name, or create a quick image in your mind. Now it's not just a word, it's a network. 3. Reduce cognitive overload. What to do? Limit how much information you consume at once. Why it works. Working memory has a limited capacity. When overloaded, it drops information before it can transfer to long-term memory. Example, instead of watching videos, scrolling, and texting at the same time, do one thing fully. Your brain can only process so much before it starts letting things go. 4. Use emotional tagging. What to do? Attach a small emotional reaction to what you want to remember. Why it works. Emotion signals importance to the brain, increasing the chance of storage. Example, when learning something, ask, why does this matter to me? Even a slight personal connection strengthens memory. 5. Accept forgetting as part of the system. What to do? Stop fighting every forgotten moment. Why it works. Stress about forgetting increases cognitive load, making memory worse. Example, when you forget something, don't panic. Let it go. Often, it comes back when your mind relaxes. Integration. So here's the model to remember. Your memory is not a container. It's a filter. It keeps what you notice, what you feel, and what you focus on long enough to matter. Everything else is allowed to fade, not because it's useless, but because your brain is making space. When you understand this, you stop asking, why do I forget so much? And start asking, what am I actually paying attention to? And that question quietly changes everything. Quiet, empowering, close. Maybe your memory isn't broken. Maybe it's just overwhelmed. Try and protect you from holding too much at once. So the next time something slips away, don't rush to judge yourself. Pause, breathe, and notice where your attention really is. Because memory doesn't begin with remembering. It begins with noticing. And maybe that's where things start to stay.